Good morning, everybody. My name is Ethos, and welcome back to In a Nutshell. Today we're talking about Rhino, which I know Rhino Prime, but still. So please excuse me, my throat's a little sore from a lot of cold issue because of, well, cold issues. So we're going to look at here Rhino's base stats at rank 30. He has been formed twice with these two polarities, V and Dash. He normally has a Dash polarity and then two Vizarin. So he has a standard 275 armor, he has a standard 150 energy, 300 health, 450 shield, and then 1.0 sprint speed. So, of course, like with Garuda and like with a couple other frames, he has quite a bit higher armor, almost the same armor as he has health, while his energy pool is relatively low. Now, when you have a low energy pool like that, you either augment it with flow, or you have to give yourself something like Hunter Adrenaline, because you're going to Hunter Adrenaline or Rage, because you're going to want to need to have that energy kind of restored. So we'll go here and we will simulate some level 30 enemies to kind of showcase his abilities, and then we'll get into his, builds. Rhino's a really simplistic frame. He's one of the original frames, so it's kind of expected. His first ability is bread and butter to some people. Rhino Charge. He gets his speed, range, damage, radius, and combo window. So basically, Rhino Charge gets more powerful the higher your combo counter is. And it's one of those things, it's like, it's barely passable for damage anywhere from level 30 enemies up, because it doesn't deal that much damage. It doesn't scale that well. You do have a 12-meter range and a radius of 2 meters around you when you charge forward. And of course, your speed is how fast you move to the target. So, as you can see, 4 times is my ultimate amount. Now, granted, they're all gone. Although I'm not 100% sure if they're all gone because they're dead, or if they're all gone because I knocked them off the face of the map. So one of the things it does do very, very well is it does ragdoll enemies like crazy. The other thing is you can use it outside. See, it barely does any damage, but it does knock them a good distance. So, they're over there. As you can see, very minimal damage. Now, what really makes Rhino shine, however, is the second ability, his Iron Skin. Even at a base level, it has a nearly 2,000 ferrite armor that it adds to you. That's basically an extra health amount. So using that basically gives you a shield of almost 2,000 health, which is pretty awesome. And then on top of that, you get 3 seconds invulnerable. Now what that means is when you activate the ability, you'll see here, about the top right, you'll see that it says Iron Skin 0. And then after 3 seconds, it goes to 1887. If I'm taking damage during that invulnerability window, then that damage adds to my ferrite armor, giving me more and more and more defense. So it's pretty darn cool. Rhino's next ability is another pretty standard one. It's Roar. He grants Warframes increased damage for a short duration. Its duration is 30 seconds. Short duration is not what I call that. A radius of 25 meters and a damage increase of 50%, which is pretty intensive. So normally, my Doomfinger weapon, well, it instantly kills people and makes them, melt away. But it's about, it has a good amount of damage to it, as you can easily see. It's kind of been designed to destroy people. But kick guns are pretty powerful. But if I go ahead here and grab that, bust these guys up to level 60 now, so we can get an actual estimation of the power of this gun, right? So I shoot one guy. That's how much I do, right? You can see how much it does. But if I do my roar, all of a sudden I'm doing a heck of a lot more damage to them. Granted, this weapon does also apply corrosive, which basically gives it an on-hit, armor shred. But Roar is giving me 50% increased damage, and that includes the damage from my charge. It doesn't give you more power strength, just gives you more damage. As you can see, it gives me this kind of yellowish glow. Now, Rhino's last ability is, well, semi-frustrating, I suppose you could say. So we'll go ahead and charge in here, and we'll stomp. Now, Rhino's stomp, as you can see, it suspends people in the air. Is that all it does? Yeah, pretty much. It does a small amount of damage, and I'll show you the actual stats here in a second once I shoot this guy for the last time. But as you can see, I'm not having to worry too much about damage I take. Revive my kitty. And then jump back up here. So, his Rhino Stomp does 800 damage, which means it's good for clearing out low-level enemies like the Infested and stuff, but once you get to higher armored enemies, it does not do so well. Now, it disrupts times, tumbling enemies around him in stasis, so the speed decrease that it gives as static is 97.5%. The radius is 25 meters, the duration is 8 seconds. So that's kind of Rhino in a nutshell. He's a very basic, simple frame, not a lot of combinations to go with his skills. He's mostly designed to be a tank, which is exactly how most people build him. Now, typically, as I mentioned before, you want to pair the aura to the polarity if you can. So you want to do energy siphon, or you want to do shield disruption, detector, corrosive projection with him. The Vizarin, you want to go vitality and redirection, and also if you can, steel fiber. That gives him a lot more defense. And to be frank, Rhino needs his defense. He's one of the few warframes that heavily relies on that defense. Because his abilities don't do very much damage, although they do augment his weapon skills, he needs the defense, he needs the survivability to stick around longer. So you have those two things. Now for me, I have a Matter Eye, and so with Matter Eye, believe it or not, I'm going to go Intensify, and I'll also try to open Continuity as well. In the Naramon tree, I would probably go ahead and pick up Flow for him, but barring that, you can always do Message for more duration, and probably some Reach and Stretch for some more range. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning that for range is because just with that increase of power strength is going to give you a lot more ferrite armor to work with. It's going to give you it's going to give you some more damage increase to work with, and more radius and more duration. Same thing with the Rhino Stomp, it's going to give you more range on that. Your speed decrease is never going to change, as far as I know. But it's going to increase the damage of the Rhino Stomp a little bit, and the duration and its radius, which is very, very useful. Again, some people will build Rhino strictly for range and duration, or range and power strength for his Rhino Stomp, which, is up to you. For Roar, you want to go duration, and you also want to go power strength. The more power strength you can get, the higher you can get this damage increase. Now, Rhino also has a very lackluster passive. He hits a shockwave after landing from a great height. So, not a great height. Great height, as you can see. A little bit of a difference in what's going on. So, we'll simply go right over here, and we will. I'll show you the build. So this is his standard survival build that I would build him if I did not have rare mods or anything special. Now you get Rhino from Venus by fighting on Fusa, which I'll show you in a little bit. So I'll unpause the invulnerability of those guys. Go in here, all guns swinging, activate this. See, they're starting to stack my iron skin. Now, again, as I mentioned, if You want to build him a little bit better than what I built him. You would probably run him with Hunter Adrenaline or with Rage to give him some energy restoration. I am failing. There it goes. So, as you can see, he's very survivable. Even without his iron skin on, he's very survivable. The one thing that his iron skin does make really nice is that he doesn't have to worry about status effects while his iron skin's active. But the one thing that does make him slightly more beneficial in certain missions is the fact that he doesn't have to worry about status effects while his iron skin is active. So, what builds do I use? I use buff. This is primarily what I use. It's a heavy duration, heavy strength build. And yes, it's still not complete, because there's a lot more that you have to do with it. But basically, with this build, the power buff you're getting is about 154%. And you have it for about 70 seconds. And if you're thinking about your ferrite armor, you get almost 6,000 ferrite armor. And then, of course, with your Rhino Stomp, you get, a fair amount of duration if you need to use it as an oh crap moment. But really, it's that roar buff that's going to make things amazing. And I can still pump this a little bit higher by using things like Umbral Intensify instead of Intensify, and then buffing up an Umbral Intensify with things like Umbral Vitality. So I can get a little bit above 309%. The problem I run into is, as all Warframes, capacity. So, I'll get there eventually, I'm sure. And then, of course, in kind of corrosive protection, I'd probably throw on growing power or something to give myself even more of a buff. So that's Rhino in a nutshell. And we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to leave the Simulacrum, go to the Orbiter. And I'm going to show you where you find Rhino parts, as well as the augments that go with him. So Rhino himself, you get him on Venus, Fusa, by fighting the Jackal. Like any other Warframe, you farm Jackal until you eventually get all of his systems, neuropics, and chassis. And then you go to the marketplace over here, and you just go type in the search, Rhino, and you can pick up Rhino himself for 35,000 credits. Now his Rhino's augments, I think they're here.
Tenno, there's a time mission alert available.
No. Grenier.
All right, what can we help you with?
Yes it is. So, you have Ironclad Charge, which each enemy hit increases Rhino's armor rating by 50% for 10 seconds. This is an infinitely stacking effect, so using this you can get some absolutely just drop-dead insane armor percentages off of Rhino. Iron Shrapnel, which is you can recast Iron Skin to detonate it, dealing 100% of its remaining health as puncture damage and knocking out enemies. Another great way of, doing some AoE damage if you want to kind of play with him for that way. Piercing Roar, which enemies within 25 meters will suffer from a puncture proc. This range is affected by ability range, so heads up on that. And last, Reinforcing Stomp. Iron Skin health is replenished by 80 for each enemy affected. So again, with this you need to have your range up and you need to be able to get those stomps off, so probably have a little bit of efficiency along with it. So that really is Rhino in a nutshell. His playstyle is tank, it's aggressive. You have to kind of play with melee weapons and range weapons. But it's all about being there into the face of your enemies and not really having to go down. Rhino's biggest risk is enemies that can deal a lot of damage really quickly. They can go through his armor and then have status effects on top of that. So the Infested can be a slight issue for him as things go further and further forward. But his real risk is the Grenier, and they always have been for most players. They have so much armor that even his buff sometimes cannot allow him to get through them. But this is why you often see Rhinos played in Hydron and other endless missions purely as buffs. and people even ask for them in the recruitment chat. They'll be like, looking for a buff. When they say looking for a buff, they mostly mean looking for Rhino. Because Rhino Roar affects Warframe abilities, where some other buffs do not. Octavia's sound buff used to not affect Warframe abilities. I do not know if that's changed or not. I haven't really checked into it too much lately. But, so Rhino is great for people like Saren, like Banshee, like Equinox, and to really buff them up. And the cool thing is, if Equinox and Rhino are together, and Equinox is the damage dealer, then Equinox can build up her ability to increase power strength, and then give it to Rhino, and then Rhino roars, he's giving even more damage augmentation to him. So it's a good synergy between those two, and really, Equinox works well with anyone who has a synergistic ability that scales off power strength fairly well and gives buffs. So it's pretty much every Warframe. That's Ember, that's Volt, that's Saren, that's Frost, and of course it's Rhino. So if you've enjoyed watching this video, please leave a comment, subscribe if you want to see more Warframe in a nutshell. If you had some comments that are of the more, not, what do they call it? If they call oh my god, again, sick, not fun. If you have any comments that are derogatory, leave them in the comments too. I'll get them in a little bit. If you have questions about this that are maybe something I didn't quite cover, also leave me a comment. I will try to get back to the comments as fast as humanly possible. So everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you guys all in my next video. Bye, everybody.